In a massive escalation of the India-Canada diplomatic row that has been simmering, in fact, for over a year now, the government today decided to withdraw its High Commissioner in Canada after Ottawa linked him and some other Indian diplomats to the killing of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. We have no faith in the current Canadian government's commitment to ensure their security, is what the government conveyed to the Canadian envoy, who was summoned by the Ministry of External Affairs earlier this evening. There you could see visuals of him going in for that meeting. The Foreign Ministry received a diplomatic communication from Canada yesterday suggesting that the Indian High Commissioner and other diplomats are persons of interest in a matter related to an investigation in that country. India hit out at the preposterous allegations, terming them a strategy of smearing India for political gains. It was underlined that in an atmosphere of extremism and violence, the Trudeau government's actions endangered their safety. We have no faith in the current Canadian government's commitment to ensure their security. Therefore, the government of India has decided to withdraw them. Well, let's go across to NDTV's Vishnu Shom and Aishwarya Jain for more. And first, Vishnu, to you. And Vishnu, just earlier when we were talking about India's reaction to this information from Canada, you said you foresee that given, the escalation in this row and the kind of language India used in response, that it could even involve the summoning back of the High Commissioner. And that's exactly what's happened. Also, the Canadian envoy going to meet for that meeting in South Block, claiming that evidence has been given.
Well, 2 points over here. What I had suggested is that there is every possibility that New Delhi might ask Canada to withdraw their envoy from New Delhi. What India has now decided to do is to withdraw our High Commissioner from Ottawa and other targeted diplomats and officials. The bigger standpoint in this is that this is the biggest low in relations between India and Canada. These relationships, diplomatic relationships of several decades, are very much on the brink. This is an absolute crisis in the relationship and comes at a time when Canada has made very strong allegations where they've said that the Indian High Commissioner in Ottawa and other officials, diplomatic officials in that country, are persons of interest in an ongoing investigation that they have. They have alleged that India has had a hand in the murder of a Khalistani extremist on Canadian soil last year. India, of course, has said that no evidence of the sort has been provided to New Delhi. Be that as it may, India is absolutely clear that we will not and cannot tolerate Khalistani activity on the soil of any country, and that the freedom of speech cannot be used as an excuse by Canada to justify the existence of Khalistani forces in that country. But what is also significant in the original Ministry of External Affairs statement is a very direct attack on Justin Trudeau himself, where they've said, and I quote, Prime Minister Trudeau's hostility to India has long been in evidence. In 2018, his visit to India, which was aimed at currying favor with a vote bank, rebounded to his discomfort. His cabinet has included individuals who've openly associated with an extremist and separatist agenda regarding India. His naked interference in Indian internal politics in December 2020 showed how far he was willing to go in this regard. That his government was dependent on a political party whose leader openly espouses a separatist ideology vis-a-vis India only aggravated matters. Now, India has never used language as strong as this. We've seen language like this used in a very different context against Pakistan in the context of terror. But India absolutely clear what Canada is trying to do by actually targeting the most senior serving Indian Foreign Service official is completely unacceptable, and he has been recalled back to India. Now, will Canada follow suit and recall their own High Commissioner from New Delhi? We'll have to wait and see.
All right, Vishnu, thanks so much for joining us. With that, let's also just listen in to what the Canadian envoy said after emerging from that meeting, and we'll go across to Aishwarya for more. But first, let's listen in to Stuart Wheeler.
The Government of Canada has done what India has long been asking for. Canada has provided credible, irrefutable evidence of ties between agents of the Government of India and a murder of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. Now it is time for India to live up to what it said it would do and look into those allegations. It is in the interest of both our countries and the peoples of our countries to get to the bottom of this. Canada stands ready to cooperate with India.
All right, so that was the Canadian envoy after emerging from the meeting in South Block. Let's go across to Aishwarya for more. And Aishwarya, he claims that Canada has given evidence or proof rather to the Indian side, but India are saying that they cannot, that they've lost faith in Canada, now summoning our envoy back to India.
Well, massive diplomatic tensions has escalated between India and Canada yesterday after the diplomatic dialogue that had been and communication that had been received from the Canadian government stating that Indian High Commissioner and other diplomats were involved and they are person in interest as far as the killing of Nijjar is concerned, and that led to eventually today, government of India issuing that statement, a strong worded statement in which the government of India stated that this is a mere showdown as far as vote politics is concerned for the Canadian government. The Indian government has been time and again asking for evidences that the Canadian government had not been able to provide. And in a showdown today, when the charge d'affaires Stuart had been summoned by the Minister of External Affairs, he came at the South Block and it was almost 30 minutes when he came outside and gave that statement that this is what the Canadian government had done, what Indian government has been asking for so long, that they had provided the irrefutable evidences on the killings, and now it is Indian government who should be acting upon it. To which a very, very strong worded response has come out, and action, of course, as India's protest that completely be seeming. The government of India had now decided to withdraw its High Commissioner and also the other diplomatics who are on target. In fact, in a very strong word, this statement has come out from the government of India, which stated that it was underlined that in an atmosphere of extremism and violence, the Trudeau government's action endangered their safety. We have no faith in the current Canadian government commitments to ensure their safety. Therefore, the reason the government of India has decided to withdraw its Indian High Commissioner and the other targeted diplomats and officials. It was also conveyed that India reserved the rights to take further steps in response to the Trudeau government's support for extremism, violence and separatism against India. Now remember, this has been for so long that Indian government had that stand that the Canadian government had failed to provide any evidences, and this time also, as the charge d'affaires had made that statement that they had provided the evidences, that's not pretty clear because the investigation is still on. But now the Indian High Commissioner and other diplomatics will be called back as soon as possible to India.
All right, and whatever else happens going forward, thanks so much, Aishwarya, for joining us with all those updates. Well, to talk more about this, we're now joined by Anil Trigunath, former diplomat. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. And first and foremost, your comments on all these developments that have taken place in the last 24 hours. First, that very strongly worded response that India had put out, then the summoning of the Canadian envoy, and now calling back our own High Commissioner from Canada.
Well, Gargi, we have been seeing these extraneous and preposterous comments from the Canadian government agencies and Prime Minister himself for over a year now. And they're repeatedly accusing India of indulging in something which they call as their own citizens' killing, in which India has no hand. And India has been asking repeatedly for some credible evidence, and which evidence has not been provided, despite what the CDA just mentioned on your report. And we have seen that not only this, the moment this thing has come that Indian diplomats or the High Commissioner are the person of interest, the Sikh for Justice SJF group has come out with various posters in which the bullet-ridden faces of the High Commissioner have been shown. Now, which clearly indicates that there is no security for our diplomats in the country, which is the Canadian government is bound to provide, but it doesn't look like, and that's what the government of India now has decided, which means very clearly that the relationship is at its lowest today. and it has been downgraded. Once our High Commissioner is returned, the relationship will be downgraded to the CDA or even a lower diplomatic level, which is the right thing to do at this stage, frankly, because the Canadians have not been helping. They want to stand with the countries that promote terrorism, that promote extremism, and unfortunately, the Canadian leadership today is trying to do that just to garner some votes here and there and for their myopic political ends. And so I think that this is for the Canadians to think what they want to do. And if they want to collaborate and the way the things are, the good countries which have good relations collaborate. But we have not seen 2018 when Trudeau had come. You remember that he brought some of these people and again he went around meeting with the extremist groups, and also this is their policy to promote extremism, separatism, terrorism against India. And therefore, we cannot and indulge, of course, in intervention in India's internal affairs.
We've accused Trudeau of playing to his, vote bank politics at our cost, at India's cost. And, given that the Prime Minister elections will be taking place there within a year, how do you see this now developing? Do you think India can have good ties with Canada, or do we just have to wait this out till there's a change of guard at the top? It seems India's always, when the Trudeaus are in charge, it's really not been good for India.
There is no doubt that Canada is an important country and an important partner. There is no doubt about that. But at the same time, if the leadership of that country chooses to take these kind of antagonistic views and unfounded allegations against a country which has been suffering from terrorism for the last 4 decades, then it wants to stand up and queue with the countries that promote cross-border terrorism. So that's the only thing I can say. If they want to align with that kind of power, those countries which are doing that, then it's up to their choice. And in that case, the relationship cannot be as usual or business as usual with them. And I think that today I can say that the action the government of India has taken is absolutely in the right spirit and as per the law, international law. And I think that we'll have to save our diplomats. And that's the reason India had to withdraw them, because they were not safe there. We have seen it, that several demonstrations that happened, and you see their posters, their names and everything, and Canadian government didn't do anything to do that. So
absolutely,
I think it's the right
and
thing
even
to
having
do.
A parade, with some sort of which represented Indira Gandhi's assassination. It was absolutely shocking to see, that being a part of a parade there. But finally, the fact that Stuart Wheeler, after emerging, said that he's given irrefutable evidence. Your comments on that of this connection between Indian diplomats and this murder?
Well, I think that this is what the diplomats from the country will say. But Indian government has repeatedly been asking for the evidence, which they have not provided as yet. I mean, it has come out earlier that they got it through some Five Eye group earlier than the Americans. The ambassador there had flagged it out. But the actual credible evidence that needs to be provided. And if that is provided, then the Indian government has always said, like in the case of the US, this is something that we are collaborating. We are all against these kind of but the country, the basic fundamental thing is not this. The fundamental thing is that what are they trying to do? By doing that, they are emboldening the terrorists and separatists and extremist groups in Canada to work against India by taking that. So that is the fundamental thing. I mean, in my view, they should themselves be stopping such activities from their soil. Instead, they are pandering to them for their political gains. I mean, that is the biggest issue.
That's right. And in the past, I mean, we have that history with the Trudeau's father and the, Kanishk blast on the plane taking place, etc. So, yes, we don't want any sort of encouragement of extremism. Thank you so much, Ambassador Trigunath, for joining us on the program.